Toyota, a brand, a manufacturer, a business, synonymous to many parts of the automotive world, motorsports, masses, and of course, enthusiasts. Their range of cars over the years have literally been a one-size-fits-all. You name it, they have most likely made something for that category. After a hiatus around the 2000s, they are back with a bang for this decade. However, the return has been overlooked and even criticised since then, and that's why I believe we, as enthusiasts, are just simply ungrateful to Toyota. The Sprinter and Corolla from the 80s, famously known as the AE86, was the final hurrah before resorting the Corolla to being front-wheel drive. It was for the enthusiastic customer who wanted a bit more spice in comparison to the regular Corolla. Available in hatchback or a coupe body style, having the option to have retractable or fixed headlights, there were a lot of options for personalisation. However, it didn't stop with cosmetics. Customers had the option for the performance-orientated AE86 chassis or the comfort-focused AE85. The former being more well-known, it was never intended to be a proper sports car. The 4AGE engine only delivered around 112 to 128 horsepower. The only real competitor was the Honda Civic. So why does it have the cult following it does now, that causes prices to skyrocket these days? To keep it short and sweet, simplicity, minimalism, and balance. The 4AGE may have only been a 1.6 litre inline-4 with subpar stats, but it could rev freely up to a high 7,500 RPM. It made use of a variable induction system to optimize both performance and economy. Power wasn't necessarily needed to be high, as the car only weighed around 900 kilograms, and it was enough to carry itself around the corners. The engine was longitudinally mounted so that it could achieve the perfect weight distribution balance as much as possible, which it almost did at 53/47. The 86 also had a 5-speed manual gearbox, vented disc brakes all round, independent front suspension with Bilstein shocks, and a multi-link live axle in the rear. This allowed the 86 to have snappy direction changing for a fun driving experience at a low cost. This also led the 86 for originating the art of drifting with the one and only Keiichi Tsuchiya. The simplicity of the 86's driving characteristics allowed Tsuchiya to hone his driving skills on the Usui mountain pass in Japan and then excel in motorsport. To this day, he is known as the Drift King from this backstory and triggered young enthusiasts to rip their 86s around local passes. The Supra, arguably the most famous Toyota amongst enthusiasts. And for the sake of this video, where it's going, I'm going to stick with the 4th generation A80 chassis and not go on about 1,000 horsepower nonsense. Its main purpose was to be an affordable GT car, used for long, comfortable drives across continents just like the equivalent models built by the likes of Porsche or Ferrari. The sequential twin-turbo setup in the 3-litre inline-6 had similar purpose to the variable induction system in the 86, but it offered a better torque delivery due to each turbo being a different size and having their own times to operate. In a way, it had some personalisation just like the A86, offering a naturally aspirated variant of the inline-6 as well as a choice between a manual or an automatic gearbox for both engines. There was an A80 Supra for anyone in the market of a GT car without breaking the bank. Again, just like the A86, you could say a cult following was developed with the tuning potential of that inline-6, but over time that became overrated and nonsense, so there's no point going on about that. But one fact that you should keep in mind is that the fellow competitor of the Supra was the Nissan Z, not the GT-R. So let me get back to my point, that we are simply ungrateful to Toyota. The reason I have mentioned these particular models as they are Toyota's return for the modern day. The 2020 GR Supra and the 2012 GT86. The GT86 was the resurrection after a 5-year hiatus since the production cease of the Celica and MR2. Toyota have taken what they have learnt from the cult following and delivered a product just for it. A product of simplicity, minimalism and balance. Toyota pulled out all of the stops to reminisce of what the 86 used to be before the modern age. Everything from a 6-speed manual gearbox, double wishbone suspension in the rear, a boxer engine layout for a lower centre of gravity, to even using tyres from the Prius which are only 10 to 20 millimeters wider than what the A86 used. Competition with the Civic wasn't as big, but it was mainly locking horns with the Mazda MX-5 and the Abarth 124 Spider. The GR Supra had to be a little different. It would be harder for sales if it continued to be a GT car, as the competition would be such as the Ferrari 812 Superfast and the Aston Martin DBS Superleggera. In order for Toyota to take what they have learnt with the cult following, they had to resort into making it a sports car. I mean, Nissan did the exact same thing with the current Z car, the 370Z, which is the true competitor to the Supra. The cult following was the sheer tunability the previous Supra had, so Toyota tried to provide that as much as they can right off the bat, placing fake vents that are easy to remove around the car, adding supports for a rear wing under the boot, as well as adding a blanking plate in front of the car to prevent it from cooling too efficiently from the factory, but it can be removed when the engine is being modified. And what was the customer result from all this? Constant criticism. Now yes, there are two things that can go against my point. That times have changed, we all have moved on, and the fact that Toyota did not build these cars independently. Yes, times have changed. I cannot argue with that statement. Cars over time have gotten quicker, so performance standards have risen, as well as the community resorting to different ways of car culture. The GT86 is more related to this first statement, as the main demographic we are seeing is heavily modifying the aesthetics. Outlandish body kits, deep dish wheels, and completely lowered suspension. On the other end of the spectrum, people are saying that the GT86 is too slow. And I do agree to an extent, as I did state before that performance standards have risen, but the GT86 wasn't meant to be today's standards, the same way the A86, its predecessor, was not meant to be a proper sports car. The second statement is that Toyota did not build or develop these cars independently. We have heard the speculations before that both the Supra and the GT86 were joint ventures to deliver these sports cars. The ventures were with Subaru for the GT86 and with BMW for the Supra. In return, the two companies will be able to deliver the Subaru BRZ and the BMW Z4. This caused a lot of disappointment to fans, especially for the Supra, but those fans are just not thinking right. Toyota teamed up with Supra as the Boxer engine plays a vital role in balance, and Subaru are pioneers in manufacturing Boxer layout engines, as we know with the STI models and the EJs, etc, etc. The team up with BMW featured a lot more, including the entire drivetrain and some aesthetics in the interior. And it does sound like Toyota was lazy, but honestly, Toyota must have been worried about developing a subpar result on their own and disappoint their fans more. Teaming up with BMW seemed like the right thing to do, as we all know they excel in their inline-six engines in their models such as the M3. What people don't seem to realise is that in a 5-year period, Toyota have not built cars for enthusiasts at all. They focused on mass demand and hybridisation, and 5 years is a very long time. But they have heard about the fans appreciating the A86 and the Supra and other cars along the way, and they did all they can to bring them back for the modern age. However, we never seem to realise that we are shoving it back into their face, by calling the GT86 slow when people build them for aesthetics, or calling the Supra just a BMW without realising that 1,000 horsepower figures can easily be reached in that BMW derived inline-six. And now, where we're heading for the future with Toyota, it's going to be a bit pear-shaped, as there are rumours of a new GR86, which sounds good, but it's going to be better than the Supra? That is kind of weird. So, I say once again, we, as enthusiasts, are simply ungrateful to Toyota. Thank you guys for watching this video. As you can see with the software issues, I haven't fixed everything just yet. This may be a new style, so just go with it. And this is obviously a lot longer, but comment down below if you'd like to start a discussion. If there's any points that you agree or disagree, I'm happy to start a discussion. And I'll see you guys in the next one.